Alright guys, so we're gonna get to this. This is our new live keys template as of right now. Um so when you open up, right, before you open up your template, you always want to make sure that the SS drive is showing. If it's not showing, it's probably because there's a bad connection between the SSD drive and the USB. So just make sure that before you open up the keys template, the SSD drive is showing. You should be good after that. So the new template is over here, keys template, and as you guys can see, there's two of them: keys template session view with tracks and the keys template session view. So as of right now, I don't have a video to show you guys how to do tracks on this session, because ultimately what I want to do is I want to have a session or a template where we can just pull up and we can just drag the tracks in there, and obviously I'll show you guys how to prep the tracks. That way we can just pull them in into our default template. So for right now, we're just using the keys template session view. So every time you get to practice or service, practice before service, just make sure you open this one up. Alright, so I'm going to open that one up till here. And this is what it looks like now. So, you guys might remember that before we were doing something similar to this where we had patches and you would just press play on whichever patch you want to use, and we're gonna go back to this sort of way because once we start implementing our tracks, instead of us seeing it in a linear way from left to right, we're gonna be able to see them here on the scenes, and we're going to be able to see verse, intro, chorus, pre-chorus. So we'll see exactly where we are in a particular song. Whereas if we were here, we'd have to be squinting to really get to see what part of the song we're in. And I just feel like us as keys player, it's easier to see it in a way where we're going from the top down than from seeing it from left to right. Um, and we'll get into more into that in a bit. But I just want to go over this template here because there is a few things that I changed. So to start off, everything is pretty much similar. So you would come in, and before you get started on your sounds, you want to go up top to live, then go preferences, go to audio, and I currently have the computer here at home, so I'm obviously not connected to the audio interface that's at church. But when you come in, you just want to make sure that this audio output device, that you're showing the play audio 12. Obviously, I don't have that here, but when you're at church, just make sure that that's there. And that's about it for that. And then you want to make sure that each one of these, so mellow, bright, synths, and other, that the audio 2 for them is 1 and 2, as we can see here. Alright. And then what that's doing is basically we're telling Ableton to throw the sounds for our keys to outputs 1 and 2 of the audio interface. Alright. And you want to make sure that your Q out and your master out is on 10. Alright, obviously you're not going to see that here because I'm not connected to the audio interface. But when you are connected, you're going to see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you want to make sure that Q out and master out is to number 10. Alright, that way we can separate the click from our sounds. Alright, So now we're gonna get into our sounds here. Um, so obviously we have mellow pads. All right, we have mellow pads. We have bright pads. We have a couple synths here, and then we have other. All right, so to start off with our mellow, we have cielo en tierra pad. All right, so okay, then we have ambient, prophet, and then airy. So this is pretty much just a basic pad. This would be like your default pad, you know, the pad that you want to have on most of the time for slow songs. All right, fast songs, you don't really need it, you know what I mean? But if you want to have a layer of a pad, you can have it. But what I want to show you guys is how these sounds are getting triggered and how they're being sent out. So, if you guys look here, I have an instrument rack, and basically, here in this instrument rack, we can add a whole bunch of instruments if we really wanted to. All right, and then we have here, I have a little bit of an EQ here, just cutting off some of the lower frequencies, um, because I don't want it to get muddy. I can even add like a another frequency here at about like 400 to 600 hertz, and this is just cleaning up the pad. You know what I mean? And then obviously I have an auto filter. So if I were to play a pad, say this one, I can. And this frequency knob will be MIDI mapped to one of the knobs, and I will label it. That way you guys can see it. Okay. And then let's go back to the instrument rack here. So instead of me creating, because we're using Omnisphere, Omnisphere is a powerful plugin. It has a whole bunch of sounds, and we are using Omnisphere for all of these sounds. All right. And we'll get into detail on Omnisphere in a bit. But basically, what I have, right, is normally what you would do on this instrument rack is you would pull 4 instances of Omnisphere, and that'd be one for each sound, right? But in order for us to save CPU, I did it in a different way where I just have 1 instance of Omnisphere, and then I have all the 4 sounds in that 1 instance, and then I am sending each sound in a different output in Omnisphere. So I'm going to show you that. So if you guys see here for Cielo y Tierra, I have Omnisphere, right? Which is the plugin. And then for ambient, I have an external instrument. But as you guys can see, we have MIDI to mellow, and that's the track that we're in. And then I have the output of Omnisphere number 2, because number 1 is already being used by this pad here, but number 2 we want to use it just for this pad. And then we have audio from, and it's a different output in Omnisphere. So I'm going to show you what I mean. I know this might be a little bit confusing, but we can open up Omnisphere here. Give it a second. Alright, so if we go to multi, I have all our sounds here, right? But if you guys look, I have different channels and different outputs for each pad. So channel 1A, channel 2B, channel 3C, and this gives us the ability to, instead of having 4 instances of Omnisphere, we just have 1 instance. We put all our pads in here, and then we just send them in different outputs. That way um, we can use these clips to trigger those pads and then instead of all of them coming out, just that particular pad will come out. So as you guys can see, we have 2 B, and then Prophet Dream we have 3 C, and then we have Airy Pad 4 D. All right. So that's how that's being sent out. And if you guys ever, because this is flexible, right? If you guys ever wanted to, add a pad, you guys could definitely do that. I would love if you guys would do that. Um, it's very simple. I'm gonna show you. So you would just create a dummy clip. This is what they call them, dummy clips, because they don't have any audio. They're just triggers, basically. So you would just double click on this new slot here. It'll create a dummy clip, and then select this mellow, right? And then you come over here to this arrow, and this pretty much just opens up your library of Ableton, and then you go to plugins, VST3, Spectrasonics. Oh, actually, no, you don't got to do that. I'm sorry. You just go here. Before you do that, select an external instrument, right? You drag that down, all right? And it's basically just another instance of the external instruments that you already have. And then if you were selecting Omnisphere, you would go to Mellow, because that is the track that we are on. And instead of you doing 4, which is the last one of the Airy Pad, you would select 5. And for your output, instead of D, which is your last one for the Airy Pad, you would select E. Alright. Now you can go into Cielo y Tierra. You click on this tool icon. It'll open Omnisphere. And now you just want to make sure that this is copying what you did here on the instrument rack. So channel 5 is good. And then we just want E. And now you can add whatever pad you want. So I do want to show you guys that this is the Spectrasonics Omnisphere library default one that comes, and then we have the user, and these are sounds that I have bought in, that I have accumulated over the time. So say for instance we wanted to add this dark pad, we just click on it, and you want to make sure that it says complete here, and you guys want to make sure also that when you're adding a pad, right, like we did here, you go to, so this is channel 5, so it's going to be here. This is where that new pad is. So Airy Pad would be here, the Prophet Dream pad is here, Ambient Motion pad is here, and Cielo y Tierra pad is here. So this dark pad, you want to click on it, and you want to go to the effects. You want to make sure that any echo or verb plugin or effects, effects, is turned off. And the reason for that is because if we keep adding effects here, it's gonna waste a lot of CPU. So rather than us having like different reverbs and different echoes for each single pad, we're just gonna have one default, one main reverb that'll be for everything. That way we can save CPU and this computer can be running 100%. So how you take these off is you just click on them, and then you just do no effect. Click on them, give it a second, click on it, no effect. And just make sure you go through all of these. So if there's like a compressor, that's fine. Or an EQ, if you see that there's an EQ, that's fine as well. Alright, we should be good to go. You can also check the effects in the multi area too, just in case. We have a delay here, that's fine. Alright, we're good. Okay, so now we have to figure out how, when we trigger this dummy clip, how it's gonna activate this particular pad. Alright, so you can rename this pad as well to the new pad that you added, and you can either right click and rename, but I like using shortcuts, so you would just do Command R and then just label it what the name of the pad is. So in this case it's dark pad. And then here you do the same thing, Command R, and that's to label it dark pad. Alright, now we're gonna go back to this instrument rack here, and if you guys can see, we have key, velocity, chain, and hide, right? So chain, it's pretty much I'm gonna try to make this bigger for you. Oh, I can't. Alright, anyways, this chain selector here is basically we can put different pads in different slots. So when that particular slot becomes active, that particular sound will come active as well. So if you guys can see for Cielo y Tierra, we have 1, ambient, we have 2, prophet, we have 3, every pad, we have 4. So since we want this to be different than all the others, we're going to bring this to 5. Alright? And the reason why we don't use 0 is because 0 is mute, which is here. Okay? So once we have that dark pad we have on slot 5, right? Now we have to tell the dummy clip that this pad is on slot 5 of the chain selector. So we're gonna double click on this, and you're gonna come over here to where to where it says envelopes, and you're gonna click on where it says auto filter, and we want instrument rack because we want this dummy clip to activate something in the instrument rack. And then we're going to specify what in the instrument rack we want it to activate. And in this case, it is the chain selector. Alright, and then over here, we're just going to drag this up to 5. Okay? So then we're going to double click on mellow. That way you guys can see what happens. So once I click on dark pad, this moved over to 5, as you guys can see. So if I were to select this one, it'll move. If I were to select the dream pad, it'll move ambient, and so on and so forth. So that's how we input a new pad. And before you move on to something, you want to double click on the clip and just make sure you come over here to where this play button is. Just make sure that quantize is to none, because if you don't do that, when you select this dummy clip, it'll wait on the downbeat of the click because it's quantized to global, and the global quantization is 1 bar. But we don't want any of that. We just want it to immediately activate once we click on it. So as you guys can see, it completely activates. Alright, so that's how you add a pad. Now, one thing that our template is missing is reverb. So we're actually gonna add that in right now. That way you guys get an idea of how to add an audio effect. So we're gonna come over here. We're gonna try some different reverbs and see which one we like better. Before we do that though, when you add a new pad, activate it, try it out. And just make sure that the volume is around the same as all the other pads. Alright, it's around the same, so we're gonna leave it like that. But if it wasn't the same, say this pad was louder, you double click on mellow, right? slide over, and then on whatever pad volume that you want to change, you can either bring down the dB here by sliding down, clicking and sliding down, or you can just come over here to this gain knob and bring it down or up, whatever you need to do. Alright, so we're gonna add some reverb. So we're gonna start with Ableton's reverb and see if we can find anything nice. So the reverb that we would like to use is Hall, just because we want our pads to sound huge. That's pretty much. So we're gonna try large stage. Just bring that over here, and we're gonna try it out with a pad. I'm gonna bring the decay to 1 or 1.2. Bring the size to about 50. And this dry wet knob, maybe bring it up to like 60. Alright, that one sounds alright. I also have a plugin here. It's called Valhalla Shimmer. We're gonna drag that over. See if we can get something nice here. We're gonna do medium stereo. We're gonna leave that there. Change this to dark. We're gonna bring our mix to like about 38. Our size maybe to like 40. See how that sounds. Alright, I think we're gonna leave that there. So we're gonna take this one out and leave the Valhalla Shimmer. Alright. So mellow pads is good for now. We're gonna leave that there. Just trying to think of what else. For MIDI, make sure that whatever keyboard you're using, it'll come up here once you're connected to everything at church. Just make sure you're on the right keyboard. Alright, let's move on over to Bright. So Bright is pretty much the same deal as mellow pads. You know, we have an instrument rack, chains, we have one instance of Omnisphere, and if you wanted to add something, you guys already know what to do. So we're gonna play these for a second. I'm gonna show you guys what this is in a minute. I'm just gonna Alright. So those are our bright pads, and obviously these can be filtered. That's the whole point of them. You know what I mean? Okay. So pretty much the same deal here. The only thing that I added now is a side chain, and I'm pretty sure you guys heard that already, but we're gonna activate it by sliding down this threshold right there. Alright. So it pretty much makes the pad a pulse. You know what I mean? And you can bring this up. Same thing for all of them. And then that is activated by this side chain here, and we have a compressor on a kick, and then we're just we have it connected to this bright trackpad, and pretty much when you bring down the threshold, it activates this compressor, but when you bring this threshold up, it goes away. All right, and when you're using this, just make sure that so say like here, right? We have when we have a clicks. Say this song one is 70 by 4 by 8. Just make sure that you bring down this MIDI side chain here, and you can do that by just doing Command C, which is copy. You bring it down to that song one, paste, right? And that way, um, we'll get into that a little bit later, but I have two side chains, one for 4 by 4 and one by 6 by 8, and that's all depending on the click that you're using for that particular song. But we'll get more into that a little bit after. So we have that. Everything is pretty much straightforward. What we can do for this also is we can add a small reverb. So I'm just gonna drag this over. I'm gonna make it not too strong because I don't want things to get muddy. Small stereo, dark. We're gonna bring this size down to about 30. Let's play that. Right there. I can bring the size up a little. Alright, that sounds good. Alright, so now we have our synths. This first sound called the Velo pluck is gonna be the Osana pluck. I am gonna add it in there. I just couldn't find it the other day, so I added a random one, but it will be there. And it's the same deal for you guys. You guys should already know what's going on here. I'm gonna turn this off. Alright, and then we have strings on over here on other. We have a pulse. Okay, synth pulse. And then we have the synth bass. Okay. So before we get into deeper things, we're gonna come over here to mellow pad. We're gonna select, hover over, come over, and then you see where it says key. We're gonna change this for all of these pads. So I'm gonna click on the first one, hold shift, click on the last one, and then we're gonna drag this over because we don't want this to be muddy. And the same thing for the end. And that just basically means that from C1 to G4, that's where these pads will play. Anything after that or before that, they won't play. And that's just to keep things clean, so that things are not muddy. You know what I mean? We're gonna do the same thing for bright pad. Hover over. First one, shift, last one, go to key. It's the same thing. Right around there. Alright? Synth, especially synths, because you don't want to be hitting the low end of the synths. We just want high. So I'm going to bring that up to about right around there. Okay, and then this is the same thing for this. The bass is going to be a little bit different. We're going to bring strings over to about C1, right around there. And then for the bass, we don't want any of the high end. We just want the low end. Alright. So we have that. Great. That's pretty much it right there. So now we're going to talk into creating patches for different songs. So here I have song 1, song 2, song 3. So when you guys come into practice, just rename them. Command R, you know, Derramo el perfume. Choose the BPM, time signature. And then you guys have to drag down the specific sounds you want to use for that song. So Derramo perfume, we could use strings. So I'm just gonna click on that MIDI clip, Command C, which will copy it. I'm gonna come over here, Command V, it'll just put it down. If I want to pluck, if I want some type of synth, maybe I'll use the big JP. So Command C, Command V. I'm going to use this M83 Bright, Command C, Command V, and a nice Cielo y Tierra pad, Command V, Command C. And so this song, 74/8, right? So when you're dragging down your sounds for that particular song, make sure that the MIDI side chain matches that BPM, that time signature. So 4x4, 4x8, it's the same thing. That way, because there's different hits when that compressor hits based off of the time signature. So just make sure you're dragging the right time signature for that MIDI sidechain. And you should be ready to rock and roll. Click that. And you know what I mean? And then same thing for the next song. Drag down. And if you don't want to use like a bright pad, you can also use this off. You know what I mean? Oh. Command C. Command V. And if you do something that you're not supposed to do, you can just hit Command Z and it'll undo whatever you did. And then so say this song is 6x8. So then I'd come here, Command C, Command V. And that's how you get things going. And then you're ready to rock and roll. Let's see what else. I think that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think if I should just have a global reverb rather than having specific ones. And I think we're gonna do that just because I don't want to I want the CPU as low as possible, you know. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna add that reverb in here. 50. So if you were doing this, if you were doing like a global reverb, you'd want the highest settings that you want, you know. So we want medium stereo. We can leave sync. Well, actually, we'll do dual. Dark. So this we can put to like 40. This we can put to 40. And then come over here. I'm just trying to. There it is. So I just wanted it to show me my sends. So this send right here is the reverb. All right. So we're gonna deactivate this reverb here, and we're just gonna send this track over to that reverb. And now if we play it, we're gonna choose off on these right now. Beautiful. So then we can delete this. And we're gonna do the same thing for bright. Doesn't need to be much, maybe around there. Off. It's pretty good. And then synth as well. Add a little bit. We can even add a little more. Yep. And then the last one is other. I don't think I'm gonna add any there. I'm just gonna leave it like that. Alright, so we have that. I'm gonna delete these. I'm gonna change this to black because that's a global thing. And this audio too, just put it to 1 and 2. So it's matching these, you know. Alright. That's about it for today, guys. I hope you guys got a general idea of what's going on. Next video we'll get into tracks, perks, and you know, MIDI cues. But you guys should be good for this weekend. Just make sure that you're using the click. You know, if the click isn't activated, it's right here. You know what I mean? Just another thing, guys. Try to be simple but effective. You know, I know you guys have the tendency of rolling your chords, but I really want you guys to get out of that habit, just because you guys are playing with a band. So, rolling chords with the band, it just makes your sound muddy. So you want to be more simple, which in return is better for us, you know, because instead of us rolling and trying to figure out what we're gonna do, you can be simple, but you can use these sounds and be really effective when you're playing, you know, and just make things really big, you know, like for example, open up the filters for brights when you're getting into big choruses, into big bridges. You know, use synths for lead lines, for intros. You know, just fill that space up. You know, that no other instrument can do. You want to be that person to fill it up because you have a big role here. It's not about just playing chords. It's about being part of the music and, you know, just filling the space up. All right, guys. So that's about it for today. Just one thing, if you guys, if for some reason, 'cause Ableton has done it to me, if for some reason Ableton isn't opening up this bar, you can just do Command Escape, and it'll shorten down the Ableton project. All right, guys, that's about it.